Okay. Did anyone listen to the first recording or no? Okay, because I am going forward, I'm going to start splitting these more and more so that the first session and the second session are completely different, just to add more depth to the conversation. But today what I really wanted to focus on was negative embodiment. And hopefully you've already looked at the module to understand what embodiment is. If not, then it's going to be a little challenging. Alienated perspective. And an alienated perspective. Have you guys looked at the modules yet or no? Honestly, just so I know where to go from on this.
Honestly, no.
I briefly schemed through them, but I haven't clicked all the videos yet.
Okay, that's okay. And Jacqueline, have you touched it yet or no?
No, I haven't. I was about to pull it up right now.
I'm sorry, say that again.
No, I haven't.
Oh, you have not. Okay, got it. All right, so that means it's okay. It means I'm starting from ground zero. Okay, and success and resilience in the eyes of adversity. So what we're looking at really, if you think about it, is that the first two bullets are really a negative scenario, which people oftentimes slide into. It's not like anyone wakes up and says, when I grow up, I want to be negative and angry at life. It just, events happen in life, and our coping mechanism based off of our personality tends to either go one direction or the other. And sometimes we take things on because that's what it looks like in our environment, that if we're in a negative environment, then we pick up those negative habits. The coping mechanisms, sometimes we pick up from others. Think about the idea that if you're in an environment where there's a lot of alcohol and the alcohol is used to anesthetize, then that becomes the cultural norm of your family, which means that when life hits the fan, whether now or when you grow, later in life, you have learned those skills, whether you agree with them or not. And at some point, the possibility of you turning to alcohol as a coping mechanism it's like having a deck of cards, and it's the one that you happen to pull is the one that you end up using. And when you use it, if you repeat it again, you start building those habits. So the possibility of developing these negative habits can be really powerful and very easy. But in response to negative, I never like ending with just a negative. So the balance of this is also talking about the success and resilience in the eyes of adversity, and speaking your mantra and living your ikigai. I really love ikigai. It's a huge tool that I use actually when focusing on people when we're doing weight loss, because, and you'll understand more when we talk about ikigai, but when you weigh 400 pounds and you've spent a decade or decades going through that roller coaster of trying to gain weight, trying to lose weight and then gaining it back through dieting schemes, you become very defeated and very frustrated and feel very negative about life. And to keep people focused on where they're going and what they're doing, they need an ikigai. And it's interesting because, and I know this is probably code until you understand what it means, but when you talk to people who overcome extraordinary adversity in life and go on to do amazing things, they will all they'll all be testify to the fact that they had an ikigai. It's just really crazy and amazing. But okay, so negative embodiment. Let's just go ahead. Whoops, I'm challenged. Let's go ahead and go back over to the website because I just can't seem to be able to handle my pages. And we will take a look at this so that you guys understand this. But please, even though we're going to do kind of the cliff notes, please don't rely on just our discussion, okay, for the section. There's really, I handpicked this stuff, you guys, really closely because I think it's so amazing. All right, so the basics is to understand is that, first of all, emotional health is our emotions, okay? And emotional health is when is happy, confident, and having a sense of self-esteem, of knowing who you are and what you're about, all right? When you have these positive emotions, they're a reflection of a mental health state versus mental illness. is because you're processing information in a healthy way that turns around and supports your emotional health. So there's this very symbiotic relationship between your emotions and your mental health. When we talk about emotional health, the reason I chose to reference it here as psychological, the psyche, is because it does become a little bit of a separation, because we don't say psychological illness or psychological sickness versus mental illness. So there is a little bit of transitional period between emotional to mental health, and that's the psychological health. What creates emotional health is really going to come out of nurturing and being active and creating. And when I say creating, I mean the idea of a person who is not destroying things, but really having a sense of creation and being an active participant in what they're creating. Because when we create things, there is this amazing sense of accomplishment. And that really kind of fills up our well rather than it being empty. Now, other things obviously can influence these things. I mean, when we have a very imbalanced choice in nutrition or access to nutrition, this can produce deficiencies. And the B vitamins in particular are very tied to the structure and functionality of the human brain, which means we can promote hormonal imbalances. Well, when we're hormonally imbalanced, we become more emotional. And I mean, think about it like with the menstruating experience. Life could be fine and all of a sudden you start crying and you don't know why you're crying. Well, that's that unevenness of the hormones in your body. And it's interesting because if you don't understand this and you don't have a play with this, then you start making choices to try to anesthetize yourself, to calm yourself down. And those choices based off that experience can either be positive, supportive, or they could be negative. So if you're randomly crying out of the blue and you don't know what's going on, what do you think is the best thing to do? You tell me, what's the best thing to do?
We'll continue stressing and like just continuing to like overwhelm ourselves instead of like taking control of the situation if we like were to understand why these emotions are happening.
Yeah, sometimes, Bernice, I want you to think about this idea that it's if you're having these, you're just randomly crying for no reason and you don't understand why. And especially if it is tied to menstruation, that's when it's a really good time to take a nap. Seriously, it's just to pause in life and take a little time out and nurture yourself. All right.
I like to just cry.
Yeah.
Like if I do cry, then I'll just cry and I'll try to figure it out later.
Mhm.
I'll just let myself, I'm a really emotional person. So I just let myself cry and like feel what it is I'm feeling. Cause I feel like in the past I've tried to just like stop from feeling them or something, but I feel like that just doesn't help me. So I just cry. And then after I cry, I feel really good. And then I just think about why maybe I cried.
Yeah, and I think that's a really cool point, is because, I mean, it's not for everyone. I totally acknowledge that, but the crying is beautiful because it's releasing all that pent up emotions, even emotions you can't quite yet identify. And once you get rid of them, you're kind of exhausted, aren't you? And that's why some people choose that when they're feeling really pent up, whether it be anger, frustration, whatever, the alternative is to do something like go running, and they push themselves and they run harder and faster to the point of the same type of utter exhaustion. You've just burned everything up, and what you're left with is really kind of like a clean slate, right? So that's one way to handle it, is just to create that timeout. Another really important way is to eat a really balanced meal. Your body is deficient. And unfortunately, the way the body works is that whenever we have these swings of hormones, or we go run very intensively, whatever that is, you start to create a deficit of nutrients, which may already be existing, which is why we have that emotional moment. And so having some really good nutrition really replenishes the nutrients the body needs for your hormones to find their balance again. So we're identifying already that sleep and nutrition really play powerful roles in emotional health, just like they did with mental health. And then when you take into consideration how stress management, it was interesting because when my grandfather was dying, it was emotionally a very charged period of my life, and I had a hard time reconciling that experience. And I was working a lot of hours and it was intense. And I found that I was just more and more, during the day and on the weekends at nights, I would be crying because there was so much building up inside of me that I wasn't understanding how to handle because I felt so out of control. And it's, sometimes these events are temporary and we have to get through them. And then other times they're, we need greater support like therapy. In my situation, antidepressants worked really well. But I got through the period, So sometimes the stress really does start to impact, and it's bigger because it's so consistent. It's bigger than what we're able to effectively manage. And that's where therapy and support really comes in powerfully. Okay, so one of the interesting things to take into consideration, if you take a look at the Anxiety and Depression Association of America, is they're talking about these statistics, which I find very interesting, is that almost 20% of American adults are affected by anxiety disorders. I got to tell you, from looking at my college population, I think that number is going to skyrocket, unfortunately. The sad part is they find that less than half of people actually reach out to the medical community to get support. The conundrum we're finding is that when people experience anxiety, oftentimes it is a response to suppressing emotions that you're holding inside of you. And the tighter you hold them inside of you, the more anxiety you have, because you're spending a lot of time and effort and energy trying to tame something internally, that if we would just actually do something like therapy and work through it and get it out, we can let it go. Will it always be a part of us, whatever that is, whether it be my grandfather dying or anything else? Yes, of course. It's a part of our history once that event has occurred. But if we allow ourselves the time to process those emotions, then it allows it to take its course and then deactivates it. It's kind of like the idea that, if you have a broken bone, if you address it and you heal it, you'll always have that little scar, okay, in your bones, but your bones now will be even stronger as a response to that healing process. And it's the same with the emotional health, is that when we address these feelings, whether they be anger or sadness or loneliness or fear, whatever that is, we just become a stronger person when we're touching them. So what is embodiment? Let's just go ahead. This is a short video, so let's go ahead and watch this just so that you have a little bit of an idea as to what it means. And I'm gonna, yeah.
It's about movement, but not just fitness. It's about yoga, but not just the shapes. It's about martial arts, but not just the fighting. It's about trauma, but not just analyzing. It's about dance, but not just sequins and celebrities. It's about beauty, but not just fake standards. It's about who we are. It's about how we live. It's about connection. It's about awareness. It's about how we shape our world. This is embodiment.
Okay. What does that mean to you three? What did you take away from that? What does embodiment mean? Because he's very elusive about what he's saying.
I think it's like everything that has to do with our whole entire body spectrum, not just focusing on like one thing, because everything connects within our whole body and our whole system. So it's that whole idea of focusing not just on one specific thing, but like all the things that make just our body live and ourselves.
Excellent. Everything we do, everything we experience in life is comprehensive, right? If you have in a moment, if you get bit by a spider, you have the experience here, but then you have the experience here. And if it goes into your system, then you have it from head to toe. But it's what you're saying, Bernice, is that embodiment is truly everything that we experience in life is embodied within us. Everything you see, you take in, and it becomes a part of you. Everything you smell, you taste, you hear, you feel. We take it in and it becomes a part of us as a whole. And that influences us. It influences us now as to how we express ourselves outwards again. So it's like, one of the things that he said that I thought was really beautiful is that, the idea of beauty. Beauty really is not what ad agencies define as beauty. Beauty is far more complex and beautiful than that. And beauty is truly the whole essence of a person and how that emanates out as them as a package deal. That is beauty. Dance, it's not just being able to perform the movement, it's becoming one with the music and using the music in the body as a form of self-expression, to emote, to tell a story, right? So everything that comes in comes out also, and that is embodiment. And this is one of the things that we really need to start wrapping our heads around, is that when we experience sensations like fear or anger, we embody those sensations. We take them in and we absorb them wholeheartedly. And this is why, sometimes when we talk about diseases that are idiopathic, like IBS or sometimes some cancers, we have no smoking gun identifiers to what caused the disease or the syndrome. But what you have is a collection of events in the person's life that creates the circumstance. And those collections of events in their lives are what they embody, internalize, and over time it upsets the balance of their body and manifests to the point where it becomes things like the IBS, with the bloating, the discomfort, the pain, sometimes constipation, sometimes diarrhea, which then becomes more social discomfort and which impacts then our confidence, our self-esteem, because of how we're fitting into society or events, activities. It's crazy. So, for the same reason too, it's interesting. The whole reason I originally got into dietetics is coming from the financial industry. I saw a lot of heart attacks. I mean, a lot of people having these adverse heart events at very young ages, and it didn't add up. Because it wasn't like I'd look around and say, oh, your diet's terrible. That wasn't it. I grew up, fortunately with a really good relationship with food, but what I did see is the internalization of stress was so severe that it then leaks out of their body into other arenas, and it eats away at them. So this is part of the power of embodiment, is understanding that the choices we make, the actions that we take, and our relationship with ourselves and others really isn't a superficial experience. It's one that really goes down to the core of us and then turns around and comes back out again. All right. So when we talk about negative embodiment, then that is a person who is internalizing stress, negative memories, negative experiences, anger, frustration, hurt, loneliness. Unfortunately, a lot of experiences and emotions that are really deconstructive rather than constructive. All right. The second. Okay. The alienated perspective, folks. So this is kind of interesting. And this is where I chose Alan Watts' discussion of perspective. Perspective really has a lot to do with part of that emotional aspect of attitude. Garage. Sorry, you guys. Attitude is really how we express our perspective, how we process that information and bring it out. So if you think about it, have you ever known someone who is just everything out of their mouth is negative? I like to say, like the Eeyore effect. Well, I guess it's going to rain today. Oh, I'll probably get to the store and they'll be sold out. Well, I don't think I can do it. I can try. I don't know. It might not be in the cards. You guys know anyone like that? I have. Yeah. And it's interesting, but it's their perspective on life, folks. And what we verbalize is what we subscribe to, what we believe. So getting clear with our perspective is part of our power. If we're going to keep putting this out of this kind of, the Eeyore Debbie Downer concept of just feeling almost like a victim and talking like a victim, then where is there any possibility? Where is there any growth, and where is there any beauty in that? But if we have a perspective on life that's like anything's possible, and we do not limit ourselves, then everything is possible. So your perspective, and this gets back to our conversation a few modules, modules ago, was on the conversation of ants, automatic negative thoughts, right? So automatic negative thoughts, that mindset is then a negative perspective of life. Versus, it was funny, I was lying in bed last night, and as I was going to bed, I was thinking, what would be the opposite of ants? Would it be powerful and positive thoughts? Or maybe it should be powerful on positive thoughts. This is what I do at night. I think up crazy things. All right. So I was looking for an acronym that I thought would be wicked cool to include in class, but somewhere along the lines of that powerful, positive pop thing. Your perspective then is what it becomes, that self-fulfilling fate, that what you speak becomes your reality. Some people refer to it as like the rose-tinted glasses, that you either see things positive and you see possibility, or you see things negative and you can predict the future. All right. So these are the negative aspects. Now, sadly, when we're so hence, where's the phrase alienated come into this? Alienated is to then be separated out, to not be a part of the community of the whole. And an alienated perspective is when we sequester ourselves away from others, whether it be that, don't touch me, don't talk to me, I don't want to hang out with you, I'm going to lurk in the shadows and watch you, but I don't want to get involved with people and interact with people. And, some people think of it as like a self-protectionism, that they insulate themselves so that they'll never get hurt again. Some people insulate themselves because they're afraid of being accepted by others, fear of rejection. And so they keep themselves separated, and that perspective starts to get a little warped when we're separated from others. That's why I thought it was really neat, the embodiment of the two seniors hugging, is that we want to stay connected with people because it helps our perspective stay fresher. Okay. This is like one of the attractions of teaching at a university, is that the perspective always is fresh because you have new ideas coming up all the time. Whereas over time, people get into grooves and then they get kind of stuck in this decayed older perspective, which is how you get that disconnect sometimes between parents and children, is because the children have these new perspectives and the adults have this kind of like, have this experience and I know what it's like and you've got to listen to me. And then there's that clashing that goes on. I mean, they both are equally right and they're both equally wrong. Dang it. No winners in that one. All right. So regarding our perspective, though, is that when we have a positive and powerful perspective, that means that creates the possibility of us creating community. And with community comes communication. And with communication comes the ability to connect with others. All right. Having a perspective, going down our bullets here, is not only the perspective that we speak from, but also recognizing, acknowledging that other people have different perspectives. okay? Because we all look at things in life based on our own personal experience. And if you really, this is where, you know, a lot of this information is really powerful for you to be thinking on where our society is at right now. And this is my complaint constantly, is that I'm really sad because our society has lost a sense of perspective. And with this has lost any sense of humility, because what I'm seeing is a lot of people state that there is only one way of thinking. There is only one approach to things. There is only one political party, and it scares me. We're speaking diversity. I had a whole section, by the way, in here on diversity and inclusivity, and I actually deleted it. I was afraid someone would file a complaint with the dean. But these are scary times, because if you speak out to whatever people can, against what people say is the new norm, then you're not allowed to have an alternative perspective, and you will be ostracized for it. You will become a social pariah. And I'm really sad, because that's operating in a vacuum. So perspective is powerful from our position, but it's also equally powerful to recognize that we don't all have the same perspective. We share things in common, but our life experiences influences our perspective and how we process information. Okay, so part of the humility is recognizing when we become overbearing, when we forget to acknowledge that there are different perspectives. Self-respect, oh my gosh. I don't know, did any of you grow up as a child and say, when I grow up, I want to be someone's doormat? Where the world steps on me and trods on me and destroys me? We don't, but yet we seem to make decisions and express ourselves in ways that we don't acknowledge and honor ourselves. And this is not narcissism, my friends. Okay, narcissism is a crazy out in left field, whole different conversation. Self-respect and love is acknowledging, and this is part of why you guys did the Dear Body letter, is that it's acknowledging and respecting you as a whole. Because how can you ever fully and effectively respect others and love others until you have that powerful, positive perspective of yourself? And then once you get that, then the beauty is to see the powerful, positive perspective of others by listening to them and sharing. And when we do that, we just become bigger people, more powerful and amazing, because it's adding to our well of knowledge. All right, candor and integrity. Don't you love the word candor? I do. Honesty, being constructive in our communication. These are really huge aspects, because when we have a perspective, it's not just about stating an opinion, but it's following through with it, being consistent with it, and communicating in a way that we can connect with others rather than blurting things out or assuming that people understand what we're communicating. And I think I've said before, assuming, it just makes a oomph out of you and me, nothing else there. So building a relationship with others founded on powerful communication really has to involve a lot of integrity, following through on your word, making your statements, communicating them to your best ability so that they're understood. We can't control the information people receive from us, okay? Because why? They come from their own perspective. But we can do our best to have integrity in what we're communicating and what we stand for. And then trusting of others. It's, you know, a lot of people have fear of trusting other people. And the sad part is the fear of trust has nothing to do with the other person. It has everything to do with ourselves. My first question when I hear someone say that they don't trust people is, do you trust yourself? And a lot of times they don't. Because to trust others, you got to feel confident and trust yourself that you can do things, that you can be responsible. And once you recognize that realm, then you can see how others have that possibility also. But if you live in your own world where you don't trust yourself, you don't trust that you can accomplish things, you don't trust that you can make the right decisions, then how can you ever believe that other people can when you can't? All right. Okay, let's now focus on the positive aspects. So, oh, no, come back. So, success and resilience in the eyes of adversity. As we develop our skills and experience in life, we really want to be thinking about how to respond to negative events, because life is this, okay? It's this yin and yang. It's always this, balance between, people will say, evil and goodness, light and dark, whatever you want to call it, east and west, I don't care. Whatever it is, it's just this constant movement. And this is what life is like. Life is never static. It's never truly predictable. All right. But it's always flowing, and you've always got a variety of experiences that are happening. And to find our balance, we don't want to get stuck in one area, because if you start getting stuck in one attitude, it's like rolling downhill. You tip the scales, and then you're living in that realm, completely void of that whole other possible aspect of life. So resilience means that we start to interact with life and events as they're momentary. And this is where I like to call it like the roller coaster of life, is that today could be the worst possible day. But what we have to get today is today and only today. We experience it, we get through it, we move on. Roller coaster comes down and you're like, oh my God, am I going to crash? But you got to remember, tomorrow's another day and you're going to come out of it again. This is the interesting thing, is this started, if you reflect on it, this really started, this whole roller coaster of emotions and events started what? High school? Is that when it just really got out of control? And part of that is because the hormones became very precarious and you were just hyper speed, starting to be exposed to more and more things in life. And then as you're in college and you start gaining more experience as an adult and taking on more independent events. And when you get out of college, oh my God, this is why a lot of people are going straight into master's programs, is just to avoid becoming an adult. But part of the adulting experience is acquiring skills and acquiring knowledge. So you can postpone it all you want, but at some point you got to jump off that diving board into the deep end. And at that point, you're going to be experiencing the roller coasters. But I will tell you, as fun as the fun park is, finding your resilience so that your roller coaster actually is a little softer becomes much more pleasurable, and keeping your eyes on the prize of always being focused. What is not working for us today will shift by tomorrow. So this is why I really, I brought up the video for you guys on Sam Burns. It was very interesting to learn about this disease that children have. But the reality is, when life has dealt you a very intense deck of cards that's just way beyond anything the average human being experiences, you have to make a choice. Just like you guys, we all do every day. We make choices. It's just sometimes we default to that attitude of, well, I had no choice, so what difference does it make? You had a choice whether or not to accept it. You had a choice whether or not to feel it. You had a choice whether or not to talk about it. We do have choices, okay? When you get hit by a car, now, did you have a choice in that moment? Maybe not, if you didn't know the car hit you. But you have a choice of how to handle the situation afterwards, okay? If, God forbid, someone says you have cancer, you have a choice on how to manage the situation. So as long as we're alive, this is the thing about human beings, is we have choice. This is part of the human experience. And in the case of Sam, I just, this, you know, sadly, he's already passed on, but he simplifies it. So let's take a, do we have time to watch this? Do you guys mind if we watch Sam for a minute? I just think he's just amazing. So this is the shorter version. And then there's a different video about Sam down here, all right? And that's a little bit longer one where he really talks through, but this is kind of a Cliff Notes one.
I'm Sam, and I just turned 17, and I have a disease called progeria. So I'm here today to share with you my philosophy for a happy life. I always try to have something to look forward to, something to strive for to make my life richer. It doesn't have to be big. It could be anything from looking forward to the next comic book to come out, or going on a large family vacation, or hanging out with my friends, to going to the next high school football game. However, all of these things keep me focused and know that there's a bright future ahead and may get me through some difficult times that I may be having. Now, this mentality includes staying in a forward-thinking state of mind. I try hard not to waste energy feeling badly for myself, because when I do, I get stuck in a paradox where there's no room for any happiness or any other emotion. Now, it's not that I ignore when I'm feeling badly. I kind of accept it. I let it in so that I can acknowledge it and do what I need to do to move past it. And sometimes I had to be brave, and it wasn't always easy. Sometimes I faltered, I had bad days, but I realized that being brave isn't supposed to be easy. And for me, I feel it's the key way to keep moving forward. I feel that no matter what I choose to become, I believe that I can change the world. And as I'm striving to change the world, I will be happy.
So I think the neat thing that Sam is speaking to is that, you know, when life gets really hard, that's that roller coaster. And, you know, we've got to be brave because, and bravery is not a hard thing to acquire. Bravery is a sense of calmness, actually, of acknowledging the moment we're in rather than fighting it, acknowledging it, and then being strategic, thinking about, okay, what can I do? Or should I not do anything right now and wait it out? It's interesting too, because if you've never seen videos of Sam before, when I first saw that video, I was just like really uncomfortable watching him. And now I've watched his darn video so many times. Sam looks like every single human being that I encounter on the street, because what do I see now? I see what Sam embodies, okay? His whole complete being. I don't see just the difference in his physique. So Sam was speaking to something that's really powerful, and that is going down here talking about the ikigai, the reason for being, having a reason to get up each day, something to look forward to. You know, and sometimes in life, our reasonings are going to seem kind of odd. Like if you were in prison for 20 years, maybe your reason would be to see your baby when you get out someday, your child that you never got to see, or to smell the grass in an open field with no walls. Or maybe your reason is that when you've been in the hospital, to be able to go on a picnic or go on vacation without tubes being attached to you. Or maybe your reason is in retirement every single day to get up and go make a difference in the world by making sandwiches for people. I mean, I know that my reason for being is to share my knowledge with people, to create a greater possibility of everyone being empowered with the knowledge they access so that they feel their confidence, they live their confidence, and they experience life at a more powerful and self-designed level. And I live this every day. And so this is something to really get real with, you know, is that who are you and what brings the joy to you that gets you out of bed every day? And where does this come from? It actually, Ikigai comes from Japan. It literally, the phrase does mean a reason for being. And it was part of when they were studying the blue zones around the world, they were looking at people who live the longest. And the Okinawans have the largest concentration of people, centenarians, over 100 years. And they found commonalities between these people. They looked at their diet, they looked at their sleep habits, they looked at their exercise habits. And they also looked at their philosophies. And the most powerful thing that really came out of that is having that reason for being. And if you think about it, when you encounter powerful people, whether it be people like Mother Teresa, who, you know, dedicated her life to make a difference for people, or Mahatma Gandhi, or when you consider you know, some people in the world like Elon Musk, who are inventing things, they're on a mission in life. And that reason for being is what empowers them every single day to push forward, even when life hits the fan. So does your reason for being have to be same your whole life? Absolutely not. Okay, absolutely not. I mean, I can tell you, when I had my daughter, my reason for being for a period of time was to create the most powerful childhood that I could. Maybe a little too much, because I want to kick her out of the house now. She's like, oh, life is good at home. Why should I move on? Well, let's reinvent that. But you know, I mean, we evolve, and as we gain more experience in life, it's our Ikigai may evolve also, and that's perfectly natural and normal. The more knowledge we gain, the more experiences we have, then we may shift. We may go from, you know, a desire to raise a family is our Ikigai, to traveling the world is our Ikigai, whatever that is, but it's your guiding light. So what I said earlier is that when I deal with patients who have to lose, you know, 50% of their body weight, you know, to go from 400 pounds to 200 pounds is not an easy journey. And it moves in such tiny increments that people feel very defeated. And I really focus, you know, I encourage them. And this is why this is powerful, because it works amazing for people who are at war or who are in medical situations, is that you've got to keep your eyes on the prize of what it is. I call it the ember that you keep alive inside of you. And that's what keeps the fire always burning. So that when you have days where things just really go sideways, part of your resilience, being able to shed off these events, is your perspective. Part of your resilience is staying true to your Ikigai. And part of your resilience also is being honest, communicating, having integrity, connecting with others. And all of that, think about it, that you're putting out there, when you bring it back in, that's what you embody. And that's the embodiment. So one little last thought to think on that I really love is mantra. Really big fan of mantras. Is that when you have your reason for being, that's your guiding light, okay? In days of success and days of adversity. But sometimes we need something to kickstart it, to kind of, I like to say it's like having something that kind of whips you back into shape. And that's where a mantra comes in really powerful. And this does kind of go back a little bit to what Harnam Kaursi is talking about up here. Your mantra is a statement that embodies you and that you embody in that statement. So she talks about the idea of statements like, I am powerful. So if you remember going back to when you guys did your statements at the beginning, this is why I was revising a lot of your statements, is not saying things like, I want to be powerful. I mean, listen to the difference. I want to be powerful. I am powerful. There is a world of difference in these two statements. So when we get clear and complete and declare who we are and what we're about, That's like having that reset button, that when we're starting to slide sideways and lose our focus, or we're about to go into a situation, whether it be to do a presentation in front of a large audience or to apply for a job. I mean, you know your reason for being, and if I swear to God, if you speak this stuff in things like an interview, man, they will get you. They will get you. I will never forget when I went in for my interviews, I just went in and I said, this is who I am. This is what I'm about. And they were like, you're hired. So when we're strong, when we're powerful, people get it. They're clear. They know who you are. And it's a highly attractive way of being. So really get clear as to who you are, and whether it be borrowing, borrowing from others is brilliant. I am powerful. I am valuable. I am unique. I am strong. I am me. Mine is I am unstoppable. So every time life hits the fan and things are going sideways, or I don't want to do something, and I'm just like, no, 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 no. I just have to, I have people who are there to stand for me, and they'll just stop me and they'll be like, who are you? What? Who are you? Shut up. Who are you? I'm unstoppable. Okay. Well, where do you have to go now? Fine, I'll do it. So think about this idea of developing a mantra, going back and revisiting what you wrote originally, trying it on and figuring out, is it reflecting who you really are? Is it strong enough? Or maybe you haven't yet been honest with yourself enough. Okay. All right, that's what I had to share with you guys today. Where are you at and how are you doing?
I'm doing good. I don't know. I really like all of these things because I constantly think about these things all the time, just because I feel like one of the big things people tell me a lot is that I'm really sensitive and really emotional. And sometimes I have a hard time like debating between the two, like, and accepting which one is me and when I am acting out kind of irrational, if that makes sense. I feel like this is something I constantly ask myself. So I always put a lot of thought into this.
Melissa, I think being an emotional person, being an expressive person is a really beautiful thing. Okay. I think that's absolutely fantastic. I think if anything, the goal here is to embrace yourself, because that is who you are. You're not going to be a Julie. You're not going to be a Bernice or a Jacqueline. You are Melissa. You are you. Okay. And that's absolutely fabulous. I think it is very fair is to just examine, if this is who I am, then let me tap into myself to be my most powerful being, rather than to skirt around with it or use it as a tool. Okay. And do you know what I mean by that?
Yes, I think so.
Okay. So the tool can be is when we use who we are to manipulate others.
Yeah.
Okay. Because at that point, when we're manipulating others, that's not us being our best. That's us using ourselves to get what we want. And that's not what it's about. So think about a person who is really, really good at connecting with people and getting people to relax and open up. Now, that could be really great because, you can really connect with people and help them recognize and identify their own power, or you can manipulate the heck out of those people, right? And get something out of them. So this is the interesting thing with our personalities, is that we all have the ability, okay, for who we are to either naturally walk that line or tilt one way or the other. Your being emotional is beautiful, but obviously if you use it to manipulate others, then that would be out of balance. But then on the other hand, if you allowed your emotions to completely control you, now you've tipped the other way and you have no balance there either, because all you're now is a mass of emotion with no direction, no guidance. Okay. So it is important. I like, the fact that you're exploring yourself, because it's finding that balance. And that's folks, that's the whole point, is that please be cautious when you're going through these modules. Um, everything that I'm presenting here builds on top of each other. So if you do the Cliff Notes, you're going to be missing out on a lot of those baby steps that build the strength and skills within you. So you want to work through it. So for example, dead serious on this, like nurturing your self-confidence, going through and finding music that really represents, that embodies happiness for you. Right? I mean, I have some music that I can play and it's like the sun just exploded on my arena. I just want to jump up and down like a little kid. It's happiness and it makes me laugh. And then some songs give me a sense of calmness, of peace, of quiet. It's like when I hear rain falling on one of those like nighttime, little videos that you play to go to sleep for mindfulness. Whenever I hear rain falling, I just get really quiet. And it's not like I'm depressed or self-reflective or anything. I quiet down, and then finding music to motivate you. Oh my gosh. I forget, my daughter, when she started rowing, she came back, and I don't remember if it was AC/DC or what, but I remember her coming back and playing music for me that's from my childhood. I'm like, you're listening to that? And she's like, yeah, we row really hard when we listen to it. And I'm like, you go, girl. So when I tried playing it for her outside of rowing, she's like, don't play that. I don't need to get ramped up right now. I'm like, okay. Music to celebrate, don't we, when we have a birthday party, we have different choices of music. I mean, how many of us are going to go in and play a song, like crying? How dreadful. And then same goes for love. So it's kind of fun because part of understanding ourselves and our emotions is finding what influences us and then not being influenced by it like we're that piece of seaweed being pushed back and forth, but actually putting it into our toolbox of tools of things to support us, okay, to make a difference. So that's why each of these steps really do keep building and empowering us if you utilize them. Okay, Jacqueline, how are you doing out there?
I'm doing good. I just the entire time you've been talking, I just had a lot of realizations of how I've been thinking the past couple of years. I feel like the last 2-3 years I've been really starting my journey to more like self-care, self-love. Mm-hmm. And I don't know, I'm just realizing that everything, my way of thinking has all been leading me to everything we've been discussing in this class right now. And I don't know, I'm more inspired and more motivated to take more action on it now than ever. So,
Isn't it fascinating and amazing? I'm a real strong believer, you guys, that I don't know how to put this. I don't know if it's that life puts things in our paths, or it's just like what you said is that we've been building experience and going through things and we become aware of the doors that are open before us, the opportunities. And I think maybe it's a culmination of both, because how is it you can have two people go into a room and have completely different experiences, right? Exposed to the same thing. And I think it's just that it's really part of that's that perspective, part of that's that processing, and part of that is where we're at in life for ourselves. So that being said, it's funny because like these two classes out this spring, I never would have chosen these classes. When I was told I was going to be teaching them, I'm like, what? Can I run now the other way? But they have turned out to be the most extraordinary gift to me. So go figure. So Jacqueline, I'm thrilled. And I just really thank you. Thank you for sharing that, because I think it's really neat to hear that for you and your life and timing, you are in the right place at the right time. And we all are. We just sometimes need to kind of open up and realize that we are where we belong and start working with it rather than fighting it. Because that's what a lot of us do in high school. And some people forget to stop fighting it after high school.
It's definitely something I'm also working on right now. Just being in college, I find myself always like comparing where I am on my education, like, like compared to others. So like I try to like stop and like think more positively about it, like you said,
Okay.
because it's like you said, it's like I'm where I'm supposed to be. It's just a matter of accepting that for me.
Well, Melissa, I'm going to say something, and this is a personal perspective that I feel
Mhm.
very strongly about. Okay, and hopefully this will convey to you what I'm hoping it'll convey. Okay, the education does not make the person. Okay, wherever you're at in comparison to everyone else in their education plan or not, that's not what makes the person. So if you did college over a course of 15 years,
Mhm.
that doesn't lower your value in any way, shape, or form. My husband never went to college. I mean, he took college classes, he never got a degree. I think he's absolutely brilliant. Do I encounter people in life who look down at him because he doesn't have a degree? Yeah, I do. And I'm just like, you fool. This is really terrible. I look at some of the professors who have attitude about their PhDs. And my response is, you do not know how to use a can opener. You have a lot of learning to do. You know, it's not about where other people are or what they're doing. It's about what you do with the information you have, who
Mhm.
you are in life. Okay. So your plan is your plan, nobody else's. Okay. That's it. And your plan will evolve. I mean, when I look at the fact that I changed careers when I started my journey at 40 on changing careers. And I mean, I could have this whole drama about, I'm in grad school with 20-year-olds doing the same stuff and that they're going to have, 40 years in this career and I'm going to have 20 if I'm lucky. But where is that going to get me if I have that whole conversation in my head? Really? Is it going to make me a better dietitian or a worse dietitian? No, it's just distraction, right? So the reality is that your mission is to be the best that you are for you. Whatever that timeline is, whether it is in school or out of school, whether it takes you 20 years to get through school or it takes you 4 years, it doesn't matter. It's your journey, and nobody on this planet Earth takes your journey other than you. You can be on a journey with other people that is parallel, evolving at the same time, having similar experiences, but how you process that information is you and only you. Okay. So where you're at is perfectly wonderful, beautiful, and brilliant. And you're being it. And that's your job. Okay. No one else's. And don't try to take anyone else's job, please. It won't go so well. All right. And Miss Bernice, how are you doing?
Pretty good. I really like the part about the success and resilience in the eyes of adversity. I think that really resonated with me because in the times that we're all living and just having to adapt to the circumstances of being virtual, learning from home, and just really starting to look forward to the small things that we can look forward to like each day to really just bring some joy into our life has been something that I really did take deeply inside because it's like, yes, we need to look forward to what's tomorrow, like Friday, it's like the last day of the week, and then we have spring break. So just those small baby steps to get us through these hard times.
Right. And that's a powerful testament because ladies, think about it. Reflect back to when COVID first hit. All right. We were on a routine. We were doing stuff. We were moving at warp speed on a plan. Right. And that plan meant a lot of, if you think about it, that plan was a lot of mindlessness because you weren't in the moment. You were constantly chasing where you had to get to. And that's where our society has been, is people just always trying to get to the next thing and never being in the moment. And when COVID hit, it was like, I don't know if you guys, I've always said, I wish when life got really tough, I used to always say, I wish I could just hit the brakes. stop life. Well, COVID did that. COVID stopped everything, okay? The governor deciding to close the whole state down stopped. Now, the interesting thing is you're going to find is if you relocate to other states, they didn't have this experience at all. And this is what's starting to come out and I find really weird. I've been reading more and more articles about how some states never shut down. And they didn't have issues with COVID. But so you're going to find that your experiences will relate to people in California, but you have become a culture and an experience that is unique to here and not other states. You know, and it's in some ways it's sad because for a lot of people, that sudden stop is like whiplash emotionally. The majority of Californians couldn't handle it, which is why a lot of the depression really ramped up, a lot of the abuse in the home environment, a lot of the alcohol abuse, a lot of things went sideways during this time period. But it has forced us to slow down and really look at things. And the thing is this is, in the end, you are going to, if you learn from this and use these tools to reinforce yourself, then you will actually find that you are stronger and more powerful in your life in the future when you do experience adverse events. Okay. I don't like to refer to it as survival. It's just life skills. And a lot of people are in such a rush, they don't develop these primary life skills, these foundational life skills that we need. So Berenice, I like what you're saying is that you're slowing down and you're getting this stuff. And as you get this stuff, you'll be all the more powerful. And as to what you were saying, this is really important, you guys, is to identify. You got to know what success looks like, because you can never achieve it if you don't know what it looks like. You'll forever be chasing something. And once you are successful and you achieve something, the moment you stop managing it, it will disintegrate on you. So it's kind of like if you have a balloon, you can blow air in and pinch it and hold it with your fingers, but your fingers are either going to freeze in that position, which means you can't use your hands for anything else, or if you let go, the air is going to come out. So you've got to always you got to figure out a system to keep inflating the balloon if you want to maintain the balloon without having to really constipate your life. So identifying what success looks like, how to track it, to manage it, maintain it. And then back to that, what is your purpose, the ikigai? That's powerful stuff. So Melissa, back to your comment about university and timing and in comparison to other people. Your success is yours. Bernice's success is hers and Jacqueline's is hers. And that's it, nobody else's. Because there's too many confluence of events, too many events coming in together to really define what success means for you. And success is not, this is where, I'm really worried. Like I talk to my kids at Chapman about this, who are freshmen. And when I ask them what success is, I always have to preface by saying, don't talk to me about the Ferrari or the big house or the yacht. Talk to me about success is for you as an individual. When you feel like you've accomplished what you've set out to do, and how then your success becomes the building block of your next step, right? It's all transitory. We keep moving, but we want to move mindfully and be really participating with it. Okay, I'm really going to stop there. Honestly, I'm not going to say anything more. Because I've got the next class. You guys, you've been absolutely fantastic and amazing to have been on this journey with me. And I just really want to say thank you. And have an absolutely fantastic spring break. Hopefully you're doing something super awesome and amazing.